Alright everybody, welcome back for another video of Virtual Warfare, text-based roleplay fighting tutorial series. And today's video is another review video. Now, I did some videos in the past. If you guys haven't checked it out, it was 2 rule sets. One of them was really too much. It was really based off of like just making the lore and using powers based off your lore. And the second one that I just finished reviewing was about a rule set with pretty much basic etiquettes on how to roleplay fight. Having the right mindset. Creating the right character, fighting the correct way, using particular methods that's fair, which is pretty good. So I really encourage everyone to check those out. And today's rule set, again, I don't when I review these rule sets, I don't have a foreknowledge on what I'm going into. I don't scan over it, so I'm experiencing this for the first time, just like everybody else. So we're going to be get rid of this. Open an app. This community is full of great stuff. How do I okay. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get on with the rule set. So this is from it's called the Frankenstein Rule Set, and it says Hitoshura. And I think I've seen that name before. So you got the credits right here. So I like the first ones we looked at, they gave a background what the rule set was about, what they were hoping for, stuff like that. But this rule set, it clearly has none of that here. You would probably see it like right here. You would see something written right here, but this has none of that. So it just gets straight to the point. So let's get straight to the point in the video. And we can scan it first and see what it talks about. Looks pretty basic. Looks pretty long too. Let's just scan it real quick and see. So, okay, so it's not pretty long. This looks like it's going to be a relatively short video, only because it doesn't have a lot of abstract or foreign implications on how to use this rule set. Unlike the first one that I did, it was like it had so many different components or so many different categories to choose from that it was its own system and its own lore in itself. And it's like I couldn't make a character and use that rule set. I had to make a character specifically for that rule set, which is not always ideal. But let's just go right into this video. So the first one is God mode. We already know what God mode is. I don't know if I should read it because we all know what God mode is. Pretty much, as I say, as old as they come, this term is referred to many ideas that boil down to godlike demonstrations such as absolute invulnerability or unrealistic cause and effects such as abilities to simply dismiss or bypass any and all limitations. It is the umbrella term that some will even use to label any act that is flat, broken, or unfair. So we already know what God mode is. So let's read what this is, autos and attempts, because if you see a lot of rule sets, it gives different types of autos, like auto this, auto that, auto this, but it never really summarizes autos together. So I'm interested in reading this. So automatic actions in RP context refers to any action that is written as having happened without the other player having the chance to properly respond to or interrupt. Although word flavor will usually change between competitive roleplaying storylines, all actions are seen as attempts as people can interrupt or influence the chain of events in more ways than one. After all, roleplay is interactive and characters and events have freedom to interact naturally. Okay, well, it's pretty much sums it up. It doesn't really get too deep into what autos are, essentially. I mean, it gives a broad sense. Pretty much it's an action that doesn't give your opponent an equal and fair opportunity to respond or intercept, or to avoid, So although word flavor will usually change between competitive roleplay, all actions are seen as attempts as people can interrupt or influence the chain of events in more ways than one. Okay, yeah, pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And I like how he put that that it all depends on. It says although word flavor will usually change between competitive word and stories, but all actions are seen as attempts as people can. So it should say, and I'm not nitpicking. It should say all actions should be seen as attempts, because like you can say that, you can say that all actions are seen as attempts, and then I would like blatantly try to control my character, and I'll just be breaking the rules, instead of saying that it should be seen as attempt, but not always. I'm saying, but so they not always are attempts. It just not seen it. So let's just move on. It's pretty much just a fair explanation on what autos are. Now, metagaming is another aspect of roleplay fighting that I like to. And I don't know why puppeteering wasn't. Anyway, we can say that. It's a commonly debated subject over the years. Metagaming is the in-character use of out-of-character knowledge, specifically information that they shouldn't really know without some hint, clues, feasible deductions. Some argue that people micro metagame and will let you continue to debate that issue. An example of metagaming is a character knowing someone else's power, strategy, weakness without a realistic or viable way to explain it. So as far as, like, I wish you would have gave an example of what micro metagame is. That context is just pretty much like, it's an ambiguous context. It can mean anything. You can either, micro, like you could pick out the smallest thing about metagame and say, oh, that's metagame because of X, Y, and Z, or it can mean like, the most complex issues that, a lot of roleplay fighters don't see can be micro metagaming. So we don't know what that really means. It would have been nice to have an idea what that is. But as far as like, yeah, I mean, that's right on the money. And I often stress the fact that metagaming is an automatic instinct of knowing. It's an auto knowing. Just auto knowing something about the character or something like that. This is an example of metagame is character. Okay, right. Okay, so that's pretty much that. Again, I wish you would have specified on what micro metagaming was. Now, excuse me. Now, power play and puppeteering. Now, puppeteering is pretty much character control, But I'm interested in why power playing and puppeteering are in the same category. So another idea with many names over the years, power playing was commonly seen as the act of controlling someone's character without their permission. It later became a term usually negative to refer to someone who adds a lot of power to a single character. Right, I never really used that terminology. A puppeteering has since replaced it for most. Okay, can also relate to autos. Right. Okay, there we go. Remember that hypothesizing a reaction or effect is not the same thing as puppeteering. Now we got to be careful with that because although it is not, and I hope he does talk about hypotheticals. Right now, I just made a video about hypotheticals, and what I forgot to add, which I'm going to add in this, even though I added it in the description, what I forgot to add is that people like to think that their hypotheticals happen automatically. So, for example, say that I say that I run into my opponent and I throw a hook, and if he ducks the hook, I uppercut, right? So say my opponent just so happens is like he ducks the punch or whatever and does something, I would say you got hit. You're like, how? Because I said that if you duck, I'm going to uppercut you, and it's like you can't just say, oh, that happens, because even though the scenario played out as if it was going to happen, or that it was certain to happen, or that it happened, you can't just use that to justify that it happens automatically because you said it was going to happen and it did. Therefore, I don't have to write anything. You're dead. You still have to follow up with an action only because, not I think say only because, but because that instance, the hypothetical only covers the action that was going to happen, or that you expected or that you want your character to go about with. It doesn't justify the aftermath of that instinct. For example, say you do, say that you say say that you say that when you do the uppercut, that I uppercut my opponent and I hit his chin, he falls back and he gets knocked out, right? You can't expect all of that to transpire because you don't know what can happen in the midst of that actually transpire. Even though the opponent may get hit, you don't know if he's going to like clench his jaw or see it at the last minute or fall back and roll away. You don't know none of that. So you can't say that, even though your hypothetical came to be, you can't just add all these different scenarios and say, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen because my hypothetical was true. You can't say that because you don't know the aftermath of the effects. You just only know the present, or you only know what would happen in that immediate instinct. You don't know what's going to happen after that instinct takes place. So you can't use hypotheticals you can't automatically think that hypotheticals would transpire in that way. You always have to follow up with another attack. So like say, you punch and say my hypothetical is that if my opponent ducks, I uppercut. Your opponent ducks, and you say as my opponent ducks, I do follow up with the hypothetical, which is the uppercut, and then you follow on with that. Then after that, I do this and this and that. You can't just say, oh, my opponent uppercut, so I'm putting X, Y, and Z in place. Therefore, all this transpires because my opponent did what I thought he was going to do. You can't do that. It's an auto. I haven't named it. It might be just puppeteering. It's part of puppeteering. Saying that your character, your opponent did something that's they don't have to do. I'm saying without the consent. So anyway, moving on to interruption and timelining. Interruption is an act of breaking a sequence of actions or events presented in the roleplay. Essentially, all major actions are susceptible to interruption, but it is important to draw a reasonable line, such as during dialogue, unless supervillain monologue speech. Common courtesy, an example. Okay, yeah. So, like when I see stuff like this, like common courtesy, like I get it. Like the thing is, you want to be like, people don't uphold honor. People don't uphold respect. People don't care about the image of role play. People just care about winning. So if I'm having a monologue and that person wants to win, all they're gonna do is interrupt me. You don't have to show courtesy. You don't have to unless it was a rule. And if you try to make courtesy a rule, that means you got to make that all across the board too. You can't just say, oh, only for speech, but you also got to do for other instances. But yes, interruption is when someone interrupts the process of anything. It can be, an ability. It could be a step forward. It could be drawing on the weapon. It could be, in its instinct, a monologue. It could be anything. So character A throws a 1-2, then roundhouse kick. Character B, it is hit with 1, blocks 2, then interrupts with an uppercut before the kick connects. Okay, that's so pretty much is like interruption. Timeline is retroactively altering the course of events once they are already established for whatever reason. It is generally accepted that you should never do this regardless of reason. What? So this is not. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this because you see why. Let me read this first. It says, seeing what is about to happen suddenly reveal that they use the tranquilizing magic energy Siegel, I don't know what that is, with the first punch. Therefore, interrupting character is B, interruption. Let me read that again. Seeing what is about to happen suddenly reveal that they use a tranquilizing magic energy Siegel, with the first punch. Therefore, interrupting character B, interruption. Huh? Oh wait, what? Somebody explain what that means in the comments, because I'm getting lost. But I think he's saying that you can't go back in time. I mean, you can change the course of events. For example, if my opponent, like, say I'm doing this, right? Because this happens all the time. It's like this happens like in real life. This actual real life instances. So for example, say I'm coming in I'm coming in to throw a punch, bro, right? That's when I'm writing down. I'm coming in to throw a punch, right? Then my opponent says, seeing my opponent comes in, looks like he about to throw a punch, I sidestep or I step back to the left or whatever, right? And then I seeing that, seeing I'm getting too close to throw a punch, I see that my opponent throwing a punch, therefore I don't extend my punch all the way, even though part of it might come out. I don't extend it all the way because I see my opponent's movement, and then I change up my attack to do an uppercut or something like that. That's pretty much just basic fighting. I mean, no one says that you have to carry out you don't have to fully carry out what you've written if something in the midst of that has changed. So if I'm saying that I'm going to run that I'm running towards you, say I'm running towards you, and once I get 3 feet away from you, I'm stopping to do an uppercut, right? If you say while my opponent is running towards me, I jump back, there's no need for me to continue running on my turn. Like, why would I have to continue running on my turn if you're no longer there? So I'm sure that this guy is not talking about that, because that's just completely wrong. Maybe he's talking about another instinct where if you say that you're committed, say you're committed to a punch, right? You say that I throw a haymaker, right? I throw a haymaker, right? And your opponent says I duck the haymaker and do a sweep kick. If you see that, damn, I'm throwing this haymaker and my opponent's going to throw the sweep kick, I'm going to retract what I said and do something else. You can't do that. You can't change your actions once it's already transpired. Once your opponent accepted that to fully transpire, you can't go back in time and change it. That's called retconning. You can't go back in time and change what's already established. Now you can change you can change what's being established while it's being established. Like, you can change the course of actions throughout that duration, but you can't go back in time and change an action that's already transpired and that your opponent already agreed on happening. You can't go back in time and change that. That is wrong. But saying that you can't change your action because the circumstances change, like, that's wrong. And I'm hopefully he's not saying that, because that would be completely stupid. But you can't do that. You can do that. You can change your actions if the following actions are being changed in the midst of you proceeding with the action. For the example again, if I'm running towards my opponent and I say I'm 20 feet away, and at 3 feet I stop and then do something. If my opponent says, when my opponent reaches 10 feet away from me, I step back, and then you get mad because I changed my actions, and I say while I was running, I see my opponent step back before I got to him, therefore I jump in the air and do something. That's perfectly legal. I could perfectly do that. So if guys saying that's wrong, I can't do that, then I gotta say this guy is wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But if he's not saying that, then I completely agree with what he's saying. All right, so moving on from that, stances. So let me get something to drink. Okay, stancing usually refers to including information not written in a bio or other form of document. This can range from the entire character, item, power, or system. There is usually the preference to include all possible data in the introduction post, but this can vary between parties. Like some of this stuff is just like it feels like this stuff is just rushed. Like, he just rushed. It's either that he doesn't have any grand knowledge on how to effectively write a rule set, or it was just rushed. He just wanted to put it together just to put it out there, because like you can say more stuff than this, and it's like, I mean, I get you want to make a concise form, but it's like Sansa usually refers to including information not written in a bio or other form of document. This can range from an entire character, item, power, or system. And when I say system, I have no idea what that means. Like, what does it mean, system? Like, does it mean power system? Like, Dragon Ball Z got their own system. Naruto got their own system. My Hero Academia got their own system. Everybody got their own system. Maybe that's referring to that, because it definitely shouldn't be referring to a roleplay fighting system, but to to the system of the power that they're using. There is usually a preference to include all possible data in the introduction. I mean, I guess. You guess you can just say. It's nothing. It's nothing. You don't have. It's nothing much to say about stances. Stances is stances. Like, you just pretty much you're just preparing, And I guess it's exactly what it is. Prepping quick draws. So for a short preparation, this is an act of investing resources, time, energy, and so on, into items, abilities, or actions, attacks, and defenses. The simplest way to understand this is to know that the more you invest in an activity, the more resilient, reliable, or potent it is. You are far more likely to shoot an opponent if you stop and aim rather than shooting from the hip gunslinger style. Okay, that makes sense. You are likely to do better on a test you studied for rather than a test you didn't. That's perfectly true. Quick draws are actions that exercise base utility. That hip fire versus slow and aiming. Do not fall into the trap that prepare actions automatically overcome quick draw. Thank you. I was hoping he would say something like that. However, as there are plenty of other variables to consider. The prep is there is a prep system stated as default in this community. It is up to parties to utilize it or not. Please note that buffing your stat is not the same as prepping. It is a systematic status, not a specific one. I don't know what that means. I don't know why buffing will be not the same as prepping. Like, please note that buffing your stat is not the same as prepping. That's debatable. I beg to differ that if you're at a base, like, it all depends on the context of what preparation is being used. Because you may think that tying a shoe is just tying a shoe, but if you're tying a shoe to prepare to run, that's a prep. That's part of a prep. You might just think brushing your teeth is just brushing your teeth, but if you put toothpaste on your toothbrush to get ready to brush, that's preparation. Like, everything is a prep to lead. Everything is a preparation to lead to something else. So it might not be like a hardcore prep, like, I'm preparing my tire with air so I can begin to ride. It might not be that much of a preparation, but if you're doing something to do something else, you're prepping. It's pretty much of a prep. You're prepping for the next step. You're prepping for the next step. So whatever context you want to look at it as, I look at it as a consistent idea. Prepping is prepping. There's no, this is prepping, but it's not prepping. But even though they share the same qualities, that's not considered prepping. That's too much to do. That's too hypocritical. It's too much. Like, it's too inconsistent. I'd rather just keep it in a consistent plane. So everything is prep, but because of that, everything is prep. You have to be wise on how much time and energy it takes to do certain things. So obviously it doesn't take that much energy for me to bend down and tie my shoe. You know what I'm saying, but it takes enough energy for me to pump air into my tire. You know what I'm saying, even though the preparation are relatively the same, it takes more energy to do one another. So you got to look at it as that. Don't look at it as actions. Look at it as the time and energy it takes to fulfill those actions. That's how you know what's a strong prep or what's a gentle prep or whatever. I'm saying that's how you know the difference between different preps. But again, on retrospect, if you're buffing yourself up to be stronger, it's considered a prep. No matter how long it takes, it's still a prep. In my eyes. But yeah, I agree with that quick draws. Preparing just because you prepare something, that doesn't mean it overcomes quick draws. Because, like, the variables are different. The circumstances are different. You know what I'm saying, because you can be prepping, for a long time and just have this one big massive ball where I could just, like, have a power just quick draws and, like, it shoots. I don't know, just shoots through it or shoot around it or do something. I don't know. But just because it's long and just because you study for the test doesn't mean you're going to pass. You know what I'm saying, because someone could be smarter and just pass the test because they just know the answers. So it has his pros and cons, not pros and cons. It has its contrasting natures of prepping and not prepping and how those overcome each other. So yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Okay, rules. So this is pretty much a system. So once you see like rules, stuff like that, time limit. So it's a rule. What's a rule? So it's a system. I said by default, 24 hours. Okay. However, please understand that it shouldn't be led to an accumulation of timeouts. And wait. However, please understand that this shouldn't lead to an accumulation of timeout ends to roleplay. Life is of the utmost priority, and if someone needs longer, and it's only fair to allow it. It's only fair, right? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you had to. It's only fair, But I get it. What I'm saying? It's only fair. It is only fair and considered to actually request the time rather than expect someone to freely offer. Right. And that's some people. That's one thing people do not do. It's either because they're too prideful to ask for more time, or they know that they're losing, and they just hope that you just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let him rock. Life is more important. I'll let him come back whenever he wants to. No, like I did this before. I did this with one of the fights that I had. Like I kept asking this guy, yo, bro, where you at, bro? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? And I gave him time. You know what? I haven't seen him in 2 days. I'm gonna let him rock out. I hit him like, yo, bro, you good, bro? Like you still gonna fight? Oh, I'm going through something. This and that. Cool. Say no more. All right, boom. Right. I wait for like a couple more days. Yo, bro, you good, bro? I didn't even mention the fight. I asked him, like, you okay? Like, I'm saying, like, how's life going? Like, what's going on? Just trying to like make him not make the fight more important than what he's going through, right? So I asked him, how you doing? Everything good? You want to talk about something? He's like, no, I'm all right. This and that. I was like, all right, yo. And I was like, I'm looking forward to to finishing the spar or whatever. And I forgot what he said. And then one day, and I trying to figure out who this dude was. It was somebody that had it out for me. But I forgot what he said, and he was just like, he just stopped. He didn't even. He's like, oh man, I don't care about this fight. Like, why didn't you just tell me that? Like, I'm saying, like, he was trying to use the idea. He was pretty much, he knew he was losing, and he was too prideful to be like, dang, can I have more time? You know what, I don't want to fight anymore. So he just ignored it and just thought that it was just going to like roll over. So when I started addressing it, he's like, oh man, I don't care about this fight, man. You was a scrub anyway. I got bored of it, and get out of here with that and stuff. It was all that, because he knew that he lost and he didn't want to fight me, and he tried to make it to something else. You know what I mean? But yeah, I totally agree with people should be asking more time, because like you can't just expect people just to like not know that you're going through something, or just expect you to wait for them and just think that everything's okay, because in their eyes you could be just hiding and forfeiting. It's like, oh, he left, he ain't coming back, so he lost. But if you ask for more time, it at least shows that, look, I still want to continue to fight. Just give me more time because we're going through something. Sure, if someone did that with me, guess what? You can have a whole month. Hey, look, you need more time? Go ahead. Do whatever you need to do. Take a whole month off. But once you start like ignoring me and start like trying to avoid me, then it's like, all right, now I know that you was trying to hide from me. Now I know, it's something deeper than not just replying. You're just trying to run from me. So now it's different. Now I'm going to say, you know what? I got to disqualify you because I see you online running around talking to people. When I ask you something, when I PM you, you don't reply. So you disqualify. So that's how I would do things. Anyway, but he's right again. He's right about the time limit thing. So sportsmanship says how much stuff, because you start going to the low MP like that, like I really don't want to get into that, because it's just like, it's just some of it is redundant, some of it is just like it's a no-brainer, some of it just like everybody got their own interpretations, which like I don't want to sit there and individually go through each limitation, each phase of limitation. So I'll probably just scan through it, comment on it, and just move on. But right now, I'm gonna just look at the sportsmanship, because all this stuff is pretty interesting, and a lot of people need to start following these qualities for fighting. So it said, as a person who has consistently walked the line of what is allowed and what is not, it is important to say that there is a line between technicalities and abusive exploitation of rules and regulation. It is a common argument that some rule sets are flawed, terrible, or that some are somehow better or worse than others. None of that is important. As mentioned later in the balance clause and tier categories, just because you can does not mean you should. Like stuff like that, I wish you could just give an example of what that means. Because it's just like I get it. Like you want to like create a narrative, or you want to make a premise of what that actually like what you're trying to say. But if you don't give like an example, like it could mean anything. It could mean anything. What that means, like I mean, just because you can does not mean you should. Like, does that mean like just because you can like make a rule that you should make a rule, or just because like you can break find a loophole that you shouldn't use a loophole? What is he trying to say? I don't know what he's trying to say. I don't know what the context of what that means. You know, as mentioned earlier, balance clause. Okay, I don't know what that means. So, but I do agree on the part where it is important to say that there is a line between technicalities and abusive exploitation of rules and regulation. So I think this is what he means. Like there's a difference between what's written and what's not written. That even though it's not written, you shouldn't try to exploit that because it's not written. You know, you should like, all right, you know, you should use basic principles to know, look, you know, if this means this and I can't do this and I can't do this, therefore I shouldn't be able to do that either. You can't say, oh, you know, this it says I can't do this and that, but it don't say I can do this, therefore I'm gonna do it. Like you can't. And the most basic example is like just because the rule set says you can't use confusing wording, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna use confusing wording because the rule set say I can't do it. Like you shouldn't be doing that. Like, or because the rule set doesn't give us a specified number on if you can like it doesn't give a specified number on how many objects you can hold in like interdimensionally or like hold in like a pocket of interdimensional whatever or in a different realm. Doesn't mean you can just go berserk and say I got 1,000 items and that item could go in this item. I can have a whole backpack of items and that's kicks out of one item. Because I was talking to my friend and this is not to excuse me, this is not to rank on him, but he asked a question. He's like, yo, like I have this silo where it's like I can like put stuff in it. I can put 10 items in it, but like if I put all these items in a bag and it's only one bag that counts as one item, it's like that's not the way that shouldn't be a way of thinking. Like if you got 10 items in a bag, it should count as 10 items. So I forgot how he worded it, but like just because you have one item in something and then you put that one item, I mean you have 10 items in a bag and that bag is one item and you put it in the void and it counts as one item, then it's like you can do that with anything. I can say I can have a trash bag with 5 bags in it, and then put the whole bag in there, and it counts as one item. Like, you can do that with anything. Like, I can do that with a truck. I can say that I have a truck full of 200 bags, but that one truck is an item. Therefore, I got one item. So I mean, I can have 10 trucks and have like trying to do the math here, but you get what I'm saying, like 1,000 bags because it's like 10 trucks and it's 10 bags in each truck. Therefore, it's 1,000 bags. Like no, that's not the way to go. So like just because it's not a written rule, you still should follow the principles or the baseline principles of other rules, you know. And it's strange because it's not strange because this is how people do things anyway. And you know, you guys know like I'm a religious person, you know, and I believe the Bible. You know, and unfortunately, people don't take the Bible, like, they look at the Bible or have, like, certain instances of the Bible, but they don't apply it. Just because they don't say it explicitly in the Bible, they say, well, I don't say it, therefore I can do whatever I want. I was like, no, just because they don't say it doesn't mean there isn't principles that helps you discern what's right and what's wrong, what's permissible, what's not permissible. Just because they don't say it explicitly in there doesn't mean you can just say, oh, don't say it, therefore I'm good. Like I can do whatever I want. Or I can do this because the Bible don't say it anyway. Like no, that's not how it works. So it's saying with this, that just because it's not written doesn't mean like, oh, it's not written, it's a loophole, therefore I could do it. It's like no, it's not. That's not how it works. Like you should use a mature mind, a discerning mind to say, look, it's not written. So how do I go about this effectively? How do I go about this in a in a mature in a wise manner where I can look at the other rules and apply these rules, the concept of these rules, to build clarity on this abstract rule that's not written. That's how you should like figure out how to handle rules or instances that's not written in the rules, but it's an instinct where it's like you have to use some type of evaluation or some type of discerning mind to figure out how to handle this instinct. You can't don't just say, oh well, it's not written in the rules, therefore I'm going to exploit it. Because that's not how you grow as a role player. You don't grow as a role player by exploiting rules. Like people think that, and it was a running thing for me. I say this a lot. Like people think that finding loopholes meant that you was like a good fighter, but anyone can find loopholes and exploit them. Like all you gotta do is say, oh, this not there, I'm gonna use that and exploit it. Like anybody can do that, but it takes someone with a consistent thought process to say, you know what, X, Y, and Z is mentioned, therefore I can't do A, B, and C. Or maybe I should say that backwards, it doesn't matter. But you get what I'm trying to say. Because A, B, and C is mentioned, I can't do X, Y, and Z because these three are mentioned. Even though it is not written, X, Y, and Z is not written explicitly, A, B, and C is still written. I could use those principles to apply to X, Y, Z and make a stronger foundation or a more consistent foundation than that. That's good sportsmanship. That's good role play. That's mature role play. That's consistent role play. That's how you grow as a fighter. That's how you grow as, knowledge of the system. That's how you become a stronger person in real life and in the role play world. That's how you should go. So I took a long time on that. So how much time is left? 20. Okay, I'll probably spend an hour on this. So judgment. It is ultimately imperative for active participants to mutually agree to a third-party judge. This is not to prepare for something to go wrong, but preparation should something go wrong. But preparation should something go wrong. Okay. A judge is there to review and decide as a rational authority, but it is important to try to reach an informal resolution prior to judge involvement. If no judge was agreed upon, a member of staff can help, or the chat owner can issue a judge or RP themselves. So this is pretty much, obviously, this is for Amino. I think he did mention that too. He mentioned something about how right here. So he mentioned something right here. He says the prep system stated as default in this community. So so pretty much these rules are specifically for Amino, specifically for me. Even though you could take those, you could take this rule and apply it in other places, but it just because it was designed for Amino and the roleplay fight community. My phone's about to die. I didn't even know. Just because it was like it's just made for Amino doesn't mean that it can't be applied elsewhere. But because it is made for Amino and the roleplay fighting community, it's just a little hard to consistently apply it on other places because of other places don't have a default prep system. Not all places does have a default prep system, and it says a member, not all members, like all members of a staff aren't always present, and the chat owner aren't always present. So none of these things are always present if push comes to shove. So moving on. So another point to make is that no circumstance justify having more than a single judge in an event. Two or more judges essentially becomes my side versus your side, with ultimately little possibility to resolve naturally. You are free to do so. Just be warned that few disagreements are actually settled with multiple judges. Now, what I did was, and this is true, like having more judges just create more problems. Because let's say it's I got my judges versus your judges. So now, like, if it's me and you, are fighting, it's me versus you, and I have my own judge, and you have your own judge, it could be my judge versus your judge. It's like it's just another another battle, another fight, which is not very good. So it's always debated on how a singular judge should be picked. Because a judge may be my friend. I might know my judge, and you might not know him, but he just be like, oh, I'm an unbiased judge, and I'm neutral and stuff like that, and I'm a good candidate. Even though that may be true, it's still a possibility that he might lean towards the person who he's friend with. Now, me personally, I don't give a damn. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And I take pride in saying that, look, that was wrong, because I care about the system. I care about the roleplay fighting method. I care about the system more than I care about, I don't say more than I care about my friendships. Like, I choose the system over my friends. But, like, if you're going to get mad at me because I'm speaking the truth, then guess what? You're not a good friend anyway. Like, you're not my friend. Like, if you're going to get mad because I'm speaking the truth and I'm correcting you, did something wrong, you want me to cover you up, you're not a good friend to me. Because that means you can't take honesty, you can't take truth, you can't take none of that. Therefore, like, how can I be friends with somebody who can't take those things? So I'll be damned if I would say I would close my eyes in the roleplay fighting system and make up a story. It's like, yeah, he won because the blob exploded in the sunlight, and when that happens, I go to sleep, and I'm not justifying anything for a person. I'm not doing that whatsoever. But I'm sticking to what the roleplay fighting system says about that instinct, and I'm sticking to the truth about that. I don't care what stuff like that. But apart from that, this is why I generated these two other aspects. It's the judge, well, the one we already know, the judge, the advocate, and something else. The judge, the advocate, I forgot what it was. The judge, the advocate, and like the lawyer, right? So the judge is, like he said, the judge is that singular judge that focuses on the rules only. If you guys, I should have just anyway, just look at Virtual Warfare Rule Set. If you guys can find it, I'll probably link in the description below. Look at Virtual Warfare Rule Set and scroll down to judge, lawyers, and advocates. So pretty much the judge doesn't make decisions based off the fight. So it's like the judge only settles disputes between the lawyers. So if a lawyer points out something from an opponent, say, hey, yo, you broke the rules, I'm going to take this to the judge to see what the judge said. The judge will be like, you know what, you did break the rules. Or the judge can say, you know what, don't worry about that, it was an accident, or whatever. So it's like a real courtroom. It's the judge, the lawyers, and the advocates. Even though lawyers and advocates are pretty much synonymous in the court system. But in the roleplay fighting, it's a judge the judge don't nitpick stuff. It only deals with the disputes of the lawyers. The lawyers are the ones to say, oh, yo, your opponent did this, your opponent did that, your opponent did that. And let me bring it to the judge, see what the judge said. That's what the lawyers do. And each player can have a lawyer. And an advocate is the one who can speak for the person when the person's not there. So pretty much the person who probably shares the same abilities, shares the same knowledge, shares the same anything. So like if the client is having a difficult time to explain something, the advocate can step in and say, hey, look, he means this, or he means this. This is what this means. This is what this means. And then the lawyer can say, oh, yeah, I get it now. Okay, so he can do this, or I get it now. That's not permissible. And then that would go to the judge. The judge will make the final decision. You know what? I got what you're saying. I sustain the objection, or, you know what? I overrule it, or whatever. So that's what the judge do. So it's like a hierarchy of things rather than just having one judge. And the judge, all that weight is falling on the judge, knowing the abilities, knowing the system, making the judgment. All that is falling on one judge, which can be a burden. And it's create a lot of mess, but it's good to have it panned out. So there's one person to talk about the abilities and know more about the abilities and stuff like that, can explain it good, in an effective way. We got the lawyers who can know about the system, know about the rules, look at the rules in and out, look at the fights and see what discrepancies were made. And then we got the judge, where the judge takes what the lawyer says, make the rulings, make sure it's fair, make sure it lines up with the rules and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. So that's how Virtual Warfare does it. I don't know of any other system that does it that way, but that's how Virtual Warfare does it. And I encourage everyone to do it that way, because it's just more effective. It's more It's more easier that way. Even though as multiple people talking, you got to do it in an orderly way. As a judge only has the final authority. The lawyers are the ones who pinpoint what's wrong with the fight, and the advocates are the ones who talk about the powers that's being used and make pretty much give it a different explanation on what the powers mean. So moving on from that, rules and assumption. Rules of assumption. Perhaps one of the most controversial ideas in competitive play is the use of ROA. If there's a lack of sufficient information in any regard, a player does possess the right to reasonably assume. However, reasonable is used literally in this particular case. If character A throws a stone swiftly, you cannot assume that the stone is going at snail's pace simply because it did not add a numerical value. Context is important. Unless it is a severe case of little to no information, good practice is to ask. Right? Ask. Just all you gotta do is ask. Hey, look, what was the speed of this? What was the speed of that? See, the thing is, people want to win. So if you're like, hey, he didn't write the number. He didn't give a specific amount. Therefore, I'm gonna take advantage of this and say, I'm calling him out. Hey, you didn't give a specific amount. Therefore, I'm just gonna assume that I'm gonna assume the words and use that against you. Like, no, that's like my virtual warfare thing is to if no numeric value is stated, is to talk about default, which is average. So if I'm saying that I'm walking towards you and no pace was stated, the average walking pace is, I mean, look it up. The average walking pace is about like 3 to 4 feet per second, something like that. I know I hear music. It's not good. I hope you guys don't hear the music in the background. Anyway, if you guys do, I'm sorry. So yeah, average walking speed, average punches force. I forgot what it was. It was like 1,000 pounds. I don't know. Forgot. But like, if it's not stated numerically, then that means it should be assumed at its base assumption. At its base average level. But again, if a stone is thrown swiftly, don't be like, oh, well, no numerical value was stated, therefore it's slow, because I'm assuming the worst. Like, don't assume the worst, assume the best. I always do that with my role play people, because I'm trying to, every time I fight, I try to look for what the person is trying to do. Not what he actually did, but what he's trying to do. Therefore, I can say, look, even though this and this and this is not stated, I'm assuming my opponent is doing this, therefore I'm responding to that. So I'm not just like showing that I'm ignorant, or showing that I'm just not trying my best to understand it. I'm letting him know that, look, you didn't add this, you didn't add this, you didn't add this, but I'm assuming that you're trying to do this, therefore I'm responding to this instinct. He can always say, no, I wasn't trying to do that, therefore blah blah blah. But I'm at least showing my opponent that I am giving him the benefit of the doubt of what's actually happening. And I noticed that you didn't write all the information, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt to show that maybe he is trying to do this, so I'm going to reply to this. Rather than say, oh, he didn't state this and this and that, so I'm going to assume the words and go off the words and win them, win against them. Like, no, that's not how. That's not how you become a strong fighter. That's not how you become a fighter. That's not a good fighter. I mean, you want to be. People think that powers equals strength, but actually knowing the system and knowing how to handle the system, knowing how to write in an effective way to say that, look, I understand the system, but what about this? It's the same. Roleplay fighting, for me, I roleplay fight the same way I would give a thesis, whatever. I give the premise, I give the problem, I give the solution, I give these things. I don't just write my character and say, oh, I do X, Y, and Z and block or die. No, I say, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's a problem about that. This is why I wrote this. And here's the solution to how to handle this. And I gave him the final conclusion. This is what this is. This is what that is. And I let the person reply to that. So that's how I roleplay fight. So yeah. So NPC. So this is a long. Yeah. So I might just say honestly right here. I might just like not go through this, because like we all know moderate power, low MP, like all this stuff you can look at yourself. This is not the problem, because like power levels are pretty subjective. Is you can't say, oh, that's not MP. Because I mean, you can say like you can have a caliber to say, oh, that's not MP because that's too powerful, or that's not MP because that's too weak. You can have stuff like that, but to be technical on what those things are, like I don't want to touch on none of that. It's like it's just lesser up. The first category, all this stuff like that is just like moderate HP. Like all this stuff is just like great. What's like all this stuff is like I don't want to. It's too much. Low MP, mid MP. Come on, I'll be there for hours. I'll be there for hours trying to go through this. So I'm just gonna look at the system that's being shared, and I'm gonna leave it at that. If you guys want to look at the rules to yourself, you have any comments or anything y'all guys want me to address, regarding this rule set, as far as the power limitations, whatever, then I will address it. But right now, I'm not going to address those things. So NPC said non-playable character, such as environmental groups or non-primary characters, such as summons and clones, are under universal limits. Unless specified by participants, the default count is 3. These specific few are treated as full characters. Any more than this number are treated as environmental, meaning people can influence them in their posts as well, killing, controlling, and so on. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. It would be nice if the guy mentioned that, well, it's part of the prep. I think it's right here too. It'd be nice if this guy mentioned like how to generate these NPCs, these summons, and how the power is distributed between, because I can say I can make an NPC and say, well, the NPC is just like me, same street, same speed, same strength, same everything. So it's just another me on the field. So like that is kind of like God moding, But let's see what this says. It is commonly known that Overseer and the partial revision balance rule set lack a number of areas, primarily in parameter detail, and this revision of the foundation does not entirely erase that issue. It has driven debates and dawned suggestions for argumentation such as the prep system. As it stands, the collective effort of members and staff alike have not driven home a harmonic balance that is universally accepted at this point, and this likely may not happen. It is, however, our responsibility to develop, strengthen, and confirm a spirit of community and a sense of sportsmanship and consistency that will enable fun for all involved parties. It is for this reason that we suggest draft, modify, and finalize as we go. Not one of us, but all of us. This happens with the balance clause. Excuse me. Each tier from RM to GT, which is realistic may lead to God tier, consists of a general description, damage, and speed parameters and limitations for the category, if any at all. As with this prep system that offers a base of operation capacity of work, so too should we regulate how we conduct characters' actions within a set category so that accurate pairing can exist in fair, fun, and consistency can thrive. Characters come in a seemingly infinite set of builds, personalities, powers, and equipment, but most operate within a neutral parameter to promote sportsmanship among all players. Let's introduce the scales. Each tier. Okay. I'm gonna read this real quick because I'm not reading the scale, so I can read it real quick. So each tier offers a particular scale, and the characters thrown into that system must operate at a scale within those parameters. This means that a character should not hit any tier or category cap casually or consistently, regardless of how they are written in their biographies. If the maximum speed limit is the speed of sound and the damage level is room, one cannot instantly blow up rooms at the speed of sound upon their introduction. It takes time, building up, and circumstances to accomplish these feats. Each character in a roleplay is relatively equal, and it is important to remember this. Remember this to help promote a sense of consistency and balance in roleplay events, story, and competitive speaking. The rule of cool clause states that Any defined rules, regulations, and parameters do not apply in the introduction as long as the actions or scene does not directly impact the fight. You want to teleport into the scene on a flying rainbow dragon while one-shotting armies with single slashes is cool, and cool eye power is in awesome. Just make sure it does not directly affect the fight. Your ass is stuck with room level caps after that mess. This clause is especially fun for people who want to add some cinematic spice. Oh well, yeah. I mean that's that. I mean that's yeah. I like the rule set. I mean I don't. If you guys want me to do a part 2 on this and go through all these different types of, you know, tiers, it's pretty much no-brainers. Like, realism mainly meaning like no one has powers, none of that stuff like that. Limited on expertise of what you have. Hand to hand, pretty much it's encompasses with RC, or which is probably realistic combat. Weapon to weapon, same thing. It's just one with hand to hand, one with weapons. Close corner combat, meaning say World War II. Wait, W2W, but allows one to engage. Okay, so pretty much you can use weapons, you can use hands, you can use any of the close quarter combat. Category limits, no superhuman feats of this equipment. Category limits. So I guess it's talking about like unrealistic melee, meaning like when I think about unrealistic melee, I think about like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid. He was like, even though it's futuristic, he can jump, flips, do all these awesome tricks. I love that game. I love Metal Gear. I think it's called Metal Gear Revengeance or something like that, or Metal Gear Rising. Metal Gear, what is it? It's one of them. Metal Gear Revengeance Rising. It's one of those things. I love that game. That game is awesome, y'all. I love it so much, man. I love that game. So when I think about realistic, mainly I think about that. All the tricks, all the movements, all the stuff that he was doing in that game. That's what I think about realistic, mainly. Category limits. So I'm not really going to get too into deep in it because, like, again, all this stuff is subjective, and I just be wasting my time going through each subjectivity of everybody's version of MP, stuff like that. The first one was an exception because it's my first time making this video, getting into the depths of rule sets, stuff like that, and it had nothing to do with MP, none of that. It was a totally different system. So I spent time in that, but like, all healing and regeneration abilities are restricted in moderation. Accelerated healing is fine, but Wolverine and Deadpool feats are not allowed. Just like we read in the first one. It is important to understand that manipulative abilities, read as kinesis, are heavily restricted to minor mastery levels. This includes elemental manipulation, blood, and so forth. So all this is the encompassing or unrealistic melee, like I was saying. None of this Street Fighter, none of this chi energy projectile stuff like that is not part of realistic melee. It falls into moderate power. We have moderate power, low MP, category limits. All this it's just extra unnecessary stuff. Say, hey man, you teleported, you teleported in low MP. You can't do that. And it's like it's just extra nonsense. Whereas it's not needed. Like your roleplay fighting is supposed to be. I get you want to have a consistent, fair system, but it shouldn't restrict characters in a way where it's like, you should, like, I have my excuse me, Virtual Warfare, again, I said this before in other videos. Virtual Warfare starts at a base level. Everybody starts at a base level, or if you want to start somewhere else, it's fine. But you are allowed to charge up your feats in a responsible way, or charge up your body in a responsible way, where like, you can start at RM and reach PC. You can do that because you took the time to charge, you took the time and energy to charge up, get buff, gather, energy and stuff like that. You can make abilities within that. It all depends on how you word it. So Virtual Warfare is more of a literature rule set, where it's like it's about wording, it's about how you write stuff, how fair you're implementing your methods, how consistent, whether you're autoing or not. So it's all about the writing, it's all about words. Whilst other rule sets are pretty much based off of like powers, what powers are permissible in this area or in this area, what you can do in this area. Like, in Virtual Warfare, you can do anything, but you have to start at a certain level and work your way up, so you can pretty much do anything, but the wording has to be there, the methods have to be there, The wording has to be there. The time and energy has to be there. Everything has to be there. The consistency has to be there. Everything has to be there. And you can pretty much do anything, but you have to work your way up. Whereas I can start in PC and just go berserk. I'm saying you can start in PC and Virtual Warfare too, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it all depends on. It's more of a systematic rule set that helps people understand how to write, why to write, and what does that do for you. Whereas all these other rule sets pretty much is just like, yo, you can't do this. You can do this, but you can't do this, and here's why. Which is fine for people who are beginning. And I sometimes I'm afraid that Virtual Warfare aren't for those who are just beginning. Like rule set, like Holy Order rule set. Yo, guess what, man? Yo, even though people look down on Holy Order HO rule set, yeah, that's one of the best rule sets to use for someone who is just beginning. It's simple, it's sweet, it's straight to the point. You can't do this, but you can do this. It develops a mindset. Say, hey, look, it just creates. It's a perfect rule set for a beginner. The perfect rule set to begin fighting. It's a perfect rule set. You guys don't know how You guys don't know how perfect that rule set is for beginners. However, if you've been fighting for like 3 years, 4 years, you should get rid of HO, get rid of Holy Order, because you're not growing in that. You're not growing. You're not being consistent. You're not looking at systematic implications. You're just using powers to determine, what you can do. And like I was saying earlier in the video, just because ABC is written and XYZ is not, you say, well, XYZ is not written, therefore I'm going to exploit that. Like, no, that's what people do who've been fighting under HO for years and years. That just because as they grow, they start to realize certain stuff about the system, what things you can do, how things you can apply because of the writing structure, because of the systematic, the nature of the system. So, hey, I can do this. This is perfectly fine to do, but I'm going to exploit it because Holy Order don't say anything about regulating these things, so I'm just going to exploit it. It's like that's not the way to go. This is why it's why Virtual Warfare is good for those who need who've been fighting for a long time and they need that consistency, need that growth, that deeper knowing about how the roleplay fighting system works, and that need that deeper understanding of how things tick and the ins and outs of roleplay fighting. Virtual Warfare is for those. And also Virtual Warfare is good for beginners too. It's not necessarily ideal, but if someone starts at Virtual Warfare rule sets as a beginner and work their way up, they will be one of the most strongest fighters to ever live, because it starts basic. Not, let's say it starts basic, but you start off with the foundation. Once you have a strong foundation, you pretty much on top of the world. Like, as long as the foundation is strong, you build on that. No one can knock you down. But if you start off with sand or a wobbly foundation like Holy Order and try to build off that, you could get easily knocked down by someone who knows the system ins and out. Because you could say for example, someone who uses Holy Order for years and years and years has no idea about what auto-scaling is. And auto-scaling is an auto. It's part of metagaming. But if you don't know what that is and just focus on Holy Order and the limitations therein, and just think that because you have experience, you kill a few noobs, you have a little writing ability that you can beat anybody, you're sadly mistaken, because there are certain instances about the system that that has not been revealed to a lot of people because they don't care. They either don't care, they don't know, or they just haven't been told about it. But certain things like metagame, auto scaling and stuff like that, and a deeper instinct, like another one I just mentioned in the video not too long ago. It's about like hypotheticals, whatever. Like, you can write hypotheticals, but like, if you don't know, the best way to go about hypotheticals is by not mentioning your actions, but only the readiness that you prepare for. Then, if you don't know about that, then you're lose. You have a greater chance of losing than winning. So, it's certain things about Holy Order that's good, that is good for beginners. But like, if you're still on Holy Order and you've been fighting for years, you're a seasoned fighter, you could be easily defeated by someone who mastered virtual warfare, and that's just part of the system. Like, as people who know virtual warfare knows the system, knows the ins and out, because that's what virtual warfare focuses on. Focuses on the ins and out of the roleplay fighting system. To have a strong foundation, you build on that. You know, so again, you know, this nothing wrong with this rule set, but like, it's so heavily influenced by limitation, the powers and stuff like that, that it skips out on the intricate nature of the system that would make someone whole, that would make someone strong, that would build a strong foundation, you know. So that's pretty much the end of the video, man. You see high MP goes with high power, lesser power, like all this stuff. Like, again, if you guys want me to what you call it, review this, I will. But like, I don't feel the need to review anything like this, because it's like everything is subjective. You know, I'm gonna run to another rule set who's gonna have the same thing: low MP, high MP, this limitation, that limitation. So it's like it gets redundant at the same time. You know, but yeah. So that's what he only has one picture. This is like the picture of Crow. Remember the guy that rule set I made. Anyway. So, I mean, that's pretty much it at the end of the video. Stay tuned for more videos. I'm thinking about making this. I gotta work on my last metaphysical training lesson before I get to the pataphysical. And after that, you know, it's gonna be downhill from there. Stay tuned for season 5. I'm not sure when season 5 is gonna come out. You know, I'm not in a rush. You know, just stay tuned for more things about virtual warfare. Like and subscribe. Definitely share. Like, just share. Share it. I don't care about likes. I mean, even though likes help the YouTube algorithm. Like, I don't care about the rest of YouTube looking at my videos. I care about roleplay fighters looking at my videos. You know? So the most thing that I would worry about is just like sharing. Like, share my videos. Let people know that, hey, look, you know, there's a roleplay fighting system out, roleplay fighting channel out there that talks about roleplay fighting, stuff like that. Check it out. You know, I would care about that. You know, I'm trying to get 1,000 subs to, you know, make community posts, stuff like that. So if you guys don't mind, you can help me out with that. Yeah, just stay tuned for more videos in the future. You know, I try not to promote my Discord like that, because like I am trying to share some of these videos with Amino, but the reason why they kind of like stop me from, which is stupid. They stop me from. I get it, but like they stop me from sharing the video because your YouTube video promotes your Discord, but it's like. What you want me to do? Like, I don't get it. Like, it was like it's kind of like a setback, but I try to find my ways to let people know that these videos exist. You know, because the thing is, they really don't care about the growth of roleplay fighting. They just care about their numbers. Because they really care about the growth of roleplay fighting, I would say, hey, go ahead, man. Like, go ahead, man. If you wanna look at this video, want to go to Discord, sure, go ahead. I mean, as long as you're growing, but they don't care about the growth. They care about people growing under them, but they don't care about the growth in totality. I'm saying I care about the growth in totality. That's why I make these videos. This is why I don't like try to like fester everybody, just adding any old body into my Discord group. Hey, come, because numbers. I don't care about the numbers. I care about the quality. I care about the growth, and I care about the mindset of how people roleplay fight. So this is why I make videos. This is why I do what I do, and I just hope you guys be on board with that too. So thank you to everybody for just, you know, hanging in there. Shout out to L, shout out to Sunny, shout out to Ethel, shout out to Jasper, shout out to the people who have been helping me throughout this time. Shout out to Draxius, shout out to somebody else I'm missing, but I really don't talk to them. So yeah, shout out to the old friends, shout out to PK, my homie, shout out to, I forgot the other dude name, Soul, shout out to Longinus, shout out to a lot of people. You know, I don't want to just shout out people and seem like, oh, he just shouted me out. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I've grown hard to like not have a lot of enemies. I don't care about enemies no more, man. Like, I'm here to do roleplay fighting, and I know I'm going off on I'm going off on a tangent right now. But I mean, I'm just trying to do things differently, man. I care about roleplay fighting more than I care about having enemies and being better than people. I don't care about that anymore. That's when I started on Kick, you know, and I tried to make a name for myself, and I don't really care about it no more. I just want people to grow when we're fighting, because that's what's important, you know. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, like, subscribe, share, and let people know about these videos, and I'll see everybody in the future. Doses.